Well, which is it, Kathy?
Kathy. Cat.
Yeah, this movie cost $6 million to make. Honestly, when going into making this, I wasn't even planning on making a video about a Vanilla Ice movie. In fact, I was gonna make a video on how I believe rappers don't belong in movies. If you still want that video, just let me know down below. However, while doing research for that video, I found this masterpiece of a movie that I just couldn't pass up. So, let me introduce you to Cool as Ice, a movie that lost $4.8 million. Cool as Ice was directed by David Kellogg and featured, you guessed it, Vanilla Ice as the star. From the very start, it was clear to see that this movie was made to try and make Vanilla Ice, or in this movie, Johnny Van Owen, look good. It even says so on Wikipedia, so you know it's true. This movie was released on October 18th, 1991, just about 2 years after his most famous track, Ice Ice Baby, was released. Speaking of that, this movie was released in 393 theaters across the United States and immediately received very poor reviews. In fact, Vanilla Ice was even nominated by the Golden Raspberry Awards for Worst Actor and won.
We don't care about these details. We understand the movie was bad. Just tell us about the actual movie.
Okay. Relax. Let's get into this. This movie opens with a 5-minute dancing scene showing off that Johnny Van Owen is popular and relevant, just in case you all forgot. After his show is over, he starts to leave with his friends and then is confronted by a girl that wants his phone number, and of course, he just has to stop and give it to her. This scene was when I realized how bad this movie truly was going to be. Every single actor in the scene feels amateur, especially Vanilla Ice. And after this, there's a musical cutscene where Johnny Van Owen is seen driving with his friends all around. This is the first time a musical cutscene is used, and it is far from the last. In fact, in my first notes after watching the movie, I wrote how annoying and repetitive this got throughout the film. Most scenes felt unnecessary, and I believe they were used to get the movie's runtime to an hour and a half. While on this ride, we get our first view of Kathy Winslow, the very obvious love interest. To save some time, basically, Johnny tries to impress her by jumping the fence with his motorcycle. However, while doing this, he startles her horse and she gets knocked off. This then creates negative tension between the two. After this, Johnny and his friends ride into the city where one of his friend's bikes break down in the middle of the road. Johnny then drags his friend's bike behind him until they come across a random bike repair shop run by a crazy old couple. While they're working on the bike, Johnny realizes that Kathy lives across the road, so he goes to visit her. During this, the viewer sees that Kathy has interest in Johnny, but quickly after this, her boyfriend makes him leave. However, before he does, he steals her notebook. Later on that night, they meet at a party and she shows more interest in him before ultimately rejecting him. Her boyfriend gets drunk and angry at her, which causes her to refuse to go home with him. Kathy begins walking home alone when she finds out that she's being followed by 2 strange men in a vehicle behind her. After saving her, Johnny finds her boyfriend smashing his friend's motorcycles and then he retaliates. Ha, biker violence. You'll love to see it. Kathy's father becomes suspicious of Johnny and tells Kathy that he doesn't want her to see him anymore, which of course she doesn't listen to. Love does things to people, I'm telling you.
How would you know? You've never been in a relationship.
Oh, shut up, MeMelon. Now, sorry about that, everyone. Where was I? Oh yeah, after she disobeys her father's wishes, she goes on a date, I guess you could say, with Johnny across the city. When they arrive home, Kathy's father becomes outraged at Kathy, and with pressure from her mother, he admits his past to his daughter. It turns out that her father had previously worked as a police officer that dealt with 2 other corrupt cops, and they had been hiding from them her entire life. After this, Kathy begins sobbing and runs off because she felt like she had been lied to her entire life. The next day, Johnny takes Kathy's little brother, Tommy, on a bike ride and sees Kathy's ex-boyfriend in the street. After this, he brings Tommy back home safely and leaves. This is where the 2 corrupt cops break in and kidnap Tommy. When Tommy's family arrives home, they find him missing, and at the absolute worst possible time, Johnny comes to tell Kathy goodbye because his friend's bike was finally finished. When he got there, he found a random letter on the porch and gave it to Kathy's father right before leaving. It turned out to be a ransom tape recording, and Kathy's father assumed Johnny was behind it. However, Kathy refused to believe this and went to him for help. While listening to the recording, Johnny figures out that Tommy was being held at a local construction site that they had visited before. They then rush there, save Tommy, and the old corrupt cops got arrested. Kathy's father forgives Johnny, and then they ride off into the sunset as new lovers. Aww, how adorable. Now, before I get into my opinions about this movie, just remember to keep an open mind and that it's completely fine to disagree. In fact, I would love to hear what you thought I was wrong about in the comments. With that being said, let's get into this. In my opinion, this movie was horrible. I'll break it down into 3 categories: the characters, the plot, and the overall film. To start with the characters, I'll talk about the ones that I didn't think were horrible. The best character in this movie was Kathy's little brother. His character was simple, but it provided comedic relief that was really needed. The other character that I didn't really mind would actually be Kathy. She was bland, but that worked in her favor. Her character didn't need to be in the spotlight, but you needed to feel a connection with her, and I kind of did, but not really. Alright, so now that I got the characters that I liked out of the way, it's time to talk about the ones that I didn't. Let's just start with the crazy old couple. Now, did they do a bad job at acting? No. However, the way their characters were written was just too much. I personally believe these characters were written as comedic relief, however, it just didn't work out. Rather, they came across as obnoxious and just unnecessary to the main plot. The worst actor in this movie most definitely goes to Vanilla Ice, and I'm not the only one that thinks that. The problem with Vanilla Ice is that, well, he just can't act. If you've ever seen a Vanilla Ice cameo in a movie, you know that he always plays himself, and that's basically what he did here. And if he can't even play himself, that you know he's a great actor. Try and imagine an hour and a half of a Vanilla Ice cameo. Yeah, that's what this movie felt like, and it just doesn't work. Besides those 2 sets of characters, I didn't necessarily have anything specific against the other individual characters. However, I can say this: they were all just way too plain and didn't have enough experience acting. In my opinion, a movie almost needs interesting characters. Without a strong cast, the movie can go very slow in certain parts, and that actually leads into what I wanted to talk about next: the plot. If you watched my Velocipaster video, you would know I really dove deep into the story. I told almost every single detail. The plot of this movie was truthfully too shallow for me to even dive into it. Throughout the movie, I found myself wanting to skip scenes. A lot of them felt very slow and stretched to reach that glorious 90-minute mark. I can guarantee you some of your favorite movies are right around the 90-minute mark, and that's because it's just kind of the Hollywood standard. Generally speaking, most people across the internet agree that 90 minutes is the perfect length of a film, unless it's stretched to reach that mark. Now, you're probably ready to hear my overall thoughts on this film, and congratulations, it's time. In my opinion, this movie was set to fail from the very beginning. A simple Google search shows that this film was made purely to make Vanilla Ice look better. So, with no true creative drive, you just get a half-slapped together attempt of a movie. This movie suffered from just about everything you can: poor acting, a bad script, and scenes that felt pointless. The only praise I can really give to this movie is that some of the, I guess you could say, cinematic shots looked fairly nice. Overall, I don't like this movie, and I think that a lot of people could agree with me. Although, if you do, that's great. Movies are an art, and different art connects with different people. I hope all of you have an amazing day. Thank you for watching, and please consider leaving a like and subscribing. My name is Keaton, also known as the Trusted Texan, and I'll be sure to see you in the next video.
Cat.